Hey, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. For this week's lesson, we have a really cool Motown style rhythm. I'm going to show you how to play everything, all the fill licks, and how you can apply all of this stuff to your own playing. And I've got the lesson split into two parts. So in this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half and download the tablature and the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos, you can get all of those things by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP325. All right, so we're going to take a look at another rhythm style this week, and this week's lesson is full of takeaways. These are little ideas that I've packed into this lesson so that you can apply to your own playing. Little fill licks and things that you can connect to chord shapes that you already know, and it's really going to enhance your rhythm playing and give you all kinds of ideas, and this stuff is not really difficult to play at all. So last week's lesson was EP324, and it was another rhythm lesson, and it seemed to hit a nerve with a bunch of you. And I mean that in a good way. A lot of people were emailing me and leaving comments saying, do more rhythm lessons. You know, there's a lot of value in that. And so as I look around the landscape on YouTube, I can see that there's not as many rhythm lessons. It doesn't seem to be as popular, but it's very necessary. As a guitar player, you have to be a good rhythm player. All your really good players are good rhythm players. And so to me, the magic in being a good rhythm player is taking lead licks or little fill licks and combining those with chord shapes and putting the two together, and you have this really cool style. And so that's what we're going to be looking at this week. So this is more of a R&B Motown style, a little different than we did last week, but there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that you can pull from this. So let me mention this guitar first. I know I'm going to have some questions on this. I am going to make another video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. I'm making videos on all my guitars, but this is a private build. This is one that an Active Melody site member that lives down in New Orleans had contacted me back before Christmas saying, hey, I build guitars, would you have any interest? And we went back and forth on some of the things that I would want. I wanted a Shell Pink Telecaster, I wanted a P90 pickup in the neck position, I wanted vintage tuners, the whole thing. And he made it exactly the way that I wanted, and it was very reasonably priced. And so I don't want to give the guy's name out because I haven't contacted him. I'm assuming he probably does want that, but for now, if you're interested in a guitar like this, a private build, just shoot me a message or an email, which you can do on the contact form at Active Melody, and I'll put you in touch with him. Super nice guy, though, and he'll build exactly what you want. So let's talk about this week's lesson. Now, we're going to be playing this Motown rhythm in the key of B, and what's really cool is there's no open strings. And so the reason that's cool is because all these little fill licks and everything you're going to learn, you can apply them to any chord shape. You just move them up or down the neck. And I'll show you what I mean as we get into it. But that's one big advantage. And I'm sorry, I've got a little bit of a cold that I'm getting over, so you'll have to kind of bear with me. But the song starts off, so we're playing in the key of B, but it starts in the 5 chord. So it goes like that. Now let me show you how to play this. Then I'll show you what this is and how you can use it going forward. So it starts off by barring the first 3 strings on the 9th fret, and you do 5. You go down, up, down, up, down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you do an upstroke by barring the and you bar the first 3 strings here on the 11th fret, and then you go back to the 9th fret. Easy. Bar the first 3 strings on the 9th fret, first 3 strings on the 11th fret. Now, so that's easy to play. That's good. Technically, something you can do, but out of context, without knowing what that is, it's useless. It's just something you can only apply to this. I want you to use this in other things going forward. So remember, we're playing in the key of B. Let me go over a quick refresher here. This will be a quick thing on the cage system, but if we were to bar here on the 7th fret and then let these 3 fingers make the E chord shape. So think of your E chord in first position, slide those fingers up, and then bar here, so your finger's kind of like a capo basically. Then we're playing a B chord. So that's a B chord using the E chord shape out of Caged. Now if I were to keep that bar in the same place but just put my pinky down here and bar the first 4 strings on the 9th fret and play the middle 4 strings, 5, 4, 3, and 2, I'm now playing an E chord, but that's using the A chord shape. So there's your A chord down in first position. Some of you know this already, and I apologize, but I just want to go through this real quick. So you have your E chord shape, your A chord shape, your 1 chord, your 4 chord. It doesn't matter where you're at now. Here I'm playing in G. 1 chord, 4 chord. So 1 chord, 4 chord. Now to get to the 5 chord, you just slide that up 2 frets. And now you've got your 5 chord. So you got 1, 4, 5. Now the reason I'm showing you all of that is to get to this point. So when we started this, we played that, which I played over the 5 chord. Now this is how I think of it. When I play the 5 chord, when I visualize the 5 chord, I'm seeing 1 finger barring here on the 11th fret, 1 finger barring here on the 9th fret. If I only played the top 3 strings of that 9th fret, and the top 3 strings of that 11th fret, that's where I'm getting all of that, which is my 5 chord. And what these chords are, that would be the 9 chord, that would be the 6 chord. So that's your F sharp 9 and your F sharp 6. I can keep going with it, but I don't want to lose people. But just know that if you like the sound of that kind of thing, and you hear that in like James Brown music, you hear it in all kinds of stuff, you're playing the 5 chord. I'm playing an F sharp 9 and an F sharp 6. And the reason I connected it back to that chord shape is now you can easily find this in any key. If I said to do something similar, if we were playing in the key of G, you could go. That would be like playing a G and a D. See? Okay, so that's our first takeaway. So after the 5 chord, then we go right to the 1 chord, and you're going to play it like this. Now, once you get this rhythm going, you can do just about anything. And this is really not that difficult because the right hand just stays in motion, going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, over and over again. The only difference is the very first time I do a downstroke, and then I play down, up, down, up. So it's down, down, up, down, up, down, up. So notice that. That's down, up, a muted down, a muted up, and then another down. So it's down, down, up. So do that first. And notice what I'm doing. I'm keeping my fingers in position there. I'm just pushing down so that I can play the chord. Then I'm releasing them, but keeping them in the same place so I can do these muted strums. So you have. And then I come up here and play. Now that's the D chord shape, but I'm playing this same chord here. So that's my B chord. This is another B chord. I'm just playing it in a different position. This is all covered in caged, C-A-G-E-D. That's EP325 if you want to see the lesson number and active melody. But I've got my middle finger and my index finger on the 11th fret, strings 1 and 3, and my ring finger is on the 12th fret, string 2. We're going to keep that hand in motion. The right hand, it's down, up, muted down, upstroke here, and notice I'm just barring the first 3 strings on the 9th fret. So you have, there's another muted strum, and then we're gonna do another upstroke. And for that upstroke, I'm playing the top 4 strings out of that B bar chord. I don't need the full bar chord. I'm just barring the first 2 strings here on the 7th fret, 8th fret 3rd string, ring finger goes down on the 9th fret 4th string, and I hit it with an upstroke. So all together, that rhythm pattern that I'm playing over the 1 chord, slowly, it sounds like this. Notice after that, there's another down, up, and then. So once you can get that groove going, just don't go any further until you can get the cadence of that thing. But once you get the groove going, you've really got the whole song because all the left hand fingerings are pretty easy. Now, here's another takeaway. I wanted you to think about what's going on here. It may sound simple. It may have just kind of glazed past this, but there is so much meat in this little piece right here. By taking this chord shape, now those are both B chords, but then there's this chord, which would be, there's different ways you can look at it. I think of this as the minor, it's the 2 chord, and the 2 chord is always minor. So the numbers go to the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So if we look at the 2 chord, it's always a minor chord. So your 1 chord would be a B, your 2 chord would be a C sharp minor. And then I never made it to the 3 chord, I just went back to the 1 chord, just played it in different voicing. So the reason I'm telling you this, and the reason I said there's so much meat in this, is this little walk down is in so much music. You can have so much fun. Even if you learn nothing else in this entire lesson, there's so much you can pull from this. See, look at what I can do. I'm just making it up, but it's a nice way to improvise around that 1 chord. Instead of just playing the chord over and over again, I'm creating a percussive element by doing the muted strums, but I'm also playing these different voicings. And I'll tell you where I got that. I got that from the song TikTok People, which was on the Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimmy did an album together called Family Style. And they did a song called TikTok People. I think that was the name of the song, but I just remember it was something like this. And when I learned that, I remember hearing it and thinking, man, that sounds so cool. Just the rhythm part of that. It sounded cooler to me than any of the lead stuff Stevie was doing. And I don't know who did that, if that was Stevie or Jimmy. But anyway, that stuck with me through the years, and I think that's probably where I got that idea. All right, so let's back it up from where we start with that 5 chord, and we'll play up to that point. We have... Then, this relative minor chord comes in. Now that's a G sharp minor chord. And what I'm doing is I'm playing the 1 chord, and then it's relative minor. Every major chord has a relative minor, and every minor chord has a relative major. To find the relative minor of any chord, you take that the root note, and then you go down 1, 2, 3 frets. Go this direction, 3 frets. And you can find, and then play a minor chord, and that's what we're doing. So notice these 2 fingers are playing the E minor chord shape. So think your E minor in first position. If you were to slide those 2 fingers up here to the 6th fret, and then bar where the nut was, like a capo, you're now playing a G sharp minor. And that's covered. I did a lesson which was EP325, where I go over the 3 different minor chord shapes, and this is one of those 3. But anyway, that's what's going on there. So, but it's the same strum pattern. Down, down, up, down, up, down, up. So we have, and then I came up here and went. Now this is an awesome fill lick that you can use when you're playing over a minor chord. So let me show you this first one. So I'm barring the first 2 strings here. In this case, it will be on the 7th fret, and I'm doing a hammer-on to the 9th fret 2nd string. Now I'm just playing strings 1 and 2. So do the hammer on, and then play the 7th fret without the 9th fret there. And then I come down here to the 4th fret, strings 2 and 3, and I do the same thing, exactly the same thing I did here, but I'm doing this time a hammer on to the 6th fret 3rd string. And then I take my finger off, and then I go down, my ring finger goes down on the 6th fret 4th string. So we have. Now, look at this minor chord shape. And let's start with this. Where is this? What is this coming from? Well, I think of the minor pentatonic scale pattern 2. That's what I visualize. And I know that when I'm playing a minor chord, in this case it would be this G sharp minor, I'm barring all 6 strings here on the 4th fret. So the 4th fret is my root fret. So when I think of the minor pentatonic scale pattern 1, you can see every one of those notes was covered there in that root fret. And I also know that if I go up here, I've got pattern 2. So when I play that first lick that goes, that's coming right out of minor pentatonic scale pattern 2. So I can play that, and then I can come back down to pattern 1. And by barring the first 3 strings here and playing that lick, those are notes all that live within that minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. That's just the background behind it. All you need to know is if you're playing a minor chord, have all these things you can do by barring here on that root fret and playing a hammer-on 2 frets up higher than where the bar is. And so I use that quite a bit if I'm improvising or vamping over a minor chord. All right, so let's back it up from the beginning. We have then we go back to the 1 chord. And then this time I went play a little variation on it. It's basically the same thing. That part is exactly the same. Then I come back to this D chord shape, but I'm playing the B chord, remember up here? But I played. So I added my pinky to the 12th fret first string. And then it go back down. So it's down, up, down. And then I come down to the 9th fret and play the first 2 strings. Now that's an upstroke with the right hand. Then I move that down to the 7th fret and play an upstroke, barring the first 2 strings on the 7th fret. So all together you have. Now why these notes? Well, those are the same notes that you would play. There's your B chord. There's your 2 chord, your minor 2. I'm just playing the top 2 notes out of them. So I just thought that sounded kind of cool. That was a way to get us back down to the relative minor. So let's back it up from the beginning. We have then we go back to our relative minor. And then I played. And that's a bend, so all I'm doing for that is I'm bending here on the 6th fret 4 string, doing a full bend. And then behind that bend, I have the first 2 strings barred here on the 4th fret. So I do the bend, and I'm picking that 3rd string, and then I'm plucking the 1st string with my ring finger. Now, so that's hybrid picked. You don't have to hybrid pick that. You could use your pick for both. And then I go back to that 3rd string and release the tension. So you have, and then down to the 4th fret 3rd string, and then down to the 6th fret 4th string, 4th fret 4th string. So all together that lick goes. And that's just a lick that's played over that G sharp minor. Now if you like that lick, you can play that over anything. If I said do that over an A minor, play your A minor up here. See how it works? All right, so from that G sharp minor we have, and then, and I'm playing the A chord shape. Now I'm playing the E chord, but using that A chord shape, just like I explained earlier. So I start by playing the 7th fret 5th string. Now everything there is the same strum pattern that we've been playing already. And then watch this. This is an awesome, kind of a Hendrix style rhythm fill. And what I'm doing is when I've got this A chord shape, if I want to replace where I've got my pinky, now I know some people use a ring finger for that, but the same principle applies. If I replace that with my index finger, I can play, I can do all these hammer-ons that happen between, in this case it would be the 9th fret and the 11th fret, but whatever this fret is, you skip a fret and you go up a fret. So I can play, and I'm playing 2 strings at once, so strings 5 and 4, strings 4 and 3, and then you could go strings 2 and 3. So you can play. You have all these little variations of fill licks you can do off of this chord shape. So if I'm ever playing an E chord up in this position, you can start to get the idea of these little fills that you can do. So the way that I played that lick goes like this. So I'm borrowing the first 5 strings here on the 9th fret, playing string 5, doing a hammer on to the 11th fret. And then I'm playing strings 4 and 3, which is behind the 9th fret here. So I have ring finger goes back down to the 11th fret, 5th string. And then there's another hammer on, playing strings 4 and 3 again, but this time hammering on to the 11th fret, 4th string. So backing up from that G sharp minor. And then we come up to the F sharp, same thing, 4 chord, walk it up 2 frets to the 5 chord, which I explained earlier. And then I played. Now this is another little extension. So remember what I just showed you over the E chord here, which was this extension on this side. We're going to do the same thing over this F sharp chord. We're going to replace our pinky here with this bar, and then I'm going to play. And what I'm doing here is I'm playing strings 2 and 3. They're in that chord anyway, right? I'm just changing fingers here. But I'm going to hammer on, putting my middle finger on the 12th fret, 2nd string, ring finger on the 13th fret, 3rd string, and then slide that up 2 frets. So you have. Now what is that? That is just a harmonized third off of that chord shape. So you can think of this now as this awesome little harmonized third fill lick, and that's what I'm playing. You can go country with it. You can go blues with it. You can get all kinds of mileage out of this little harmonized third. It's just an extension off this chord shape. So if I told you to go into a D chord now, using that A chord shape, which is what we're using, you should be able to find that. And now if you take that and you combine it with the first one, look at all this stuff I can do. I can really start to get creative with those 2 little shapes there. So the first one we did off the E chord. The second one we did off the F sharp minor. Now after that I went barring the first 3 strings on the 11th fret, first 3 strings on the 9th fret. And then we're back to our 1 chord. Alright, so let's put it all together. We'll back up from the very beginning and play up to that point. So we have. Now we're back to the 1 chord, the same way that we played it. 4 chord, back to the 1, and then the turnaround. And that's the whole song. So that turnaround is the same way that we played it in the intro. And I'm just barring the first 3 strings there on the 9th fret and then up on the 11th fret. And then we go into the second part, which I'm going to save for the next video. So if you're a premium member, you have access to all the extra lesson materials. You have access to the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing along with the jam track. I have it in multiple tempos. You can have access to the tablature, all of that stuff. If you haven't followed me, or subscribed to me rather, on YouTube, I'd encourage you to hit the subscribe button and the alert bell. As I create new lessons like this each week, you'll be alerted and notified. All right, we'll see you in part 2.